They didn't just lie to you. They betrayed you. And not in a vague, forgettable way. No, this one hit you where it hurt. They aimed straight at your heart. Because that's where your purpose lived. You keep replaying it. The moment the mask fell off. The moment you realized the person you trusted the most was the one pulling the trigger. And you want to understand it. You keep looking for logic. Why would they do this? What did I ever do to deserve that? But the truth is, this wasn't about you the person. This was about you the threat. They didn't just see someone kind. They saw someone dangerous. To the comfort of their dysfunction. To the lie they were trying to live in. You carry something they couldn't name. So they tried to destroy it instead. And maybe the wound made you question everything. Your instincts. Your judgment. Even your worth. But I need you to hear me clearly. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was an ambush. Not by one person, but by the unseen things that feared who you're becoming. You were under spiritual fire. Because the moment you started waking up, the moment you started healing, you became a threat. Not just to people, but to patterns. To generational cycles. To every lie you were never supposed to question. You weren't weak. You were targeted. Because something in you carries weight. And they felt it even if they never said it. You thought they hated your flaws. But really, they couldn't handle your truth. Because when someone walks in clarity, those still living in chaos will always feel exposed. So don't mistake the wound for weakness. It hurt because it was real. But the real attack wasn't on your image. It was on your identity. It was on your assignment. It was on the version of you they sensed was coming, even before you did. But here's the shift. You survived it. You're still here. And that alone is rebellion. So now you know, you weren't being rejected. You were being revealed. And when spiritual war breaks out, it's not against the empty. It's against the anointed. They came for the person, but they awakened the calling. And now it's too late to unsee it. Too late to unknow what this pain has shown you. You are no longer the target. You are the weapon. They said you were done. That after what happened, you'd never come back the same. That maybe you'd survive, but you'd never fully rise again. They spoke like your silence was proof, like your stillness meant surrender, like your absence meant you were gone for good. But they didn't know. You weren't broken. You were buried. And there's a difference. Because what they walked away from wasn't a ruin. It was a seed, pressed beneath the weight of what tried to end you, covered in the dirt of betrayal, abandonment, and shame. But you weren't destroyed. You were hidden. For a season. For a reason. It didn't feel holy. It felt like abandonment. It felt like being erased. You watched the world move on without you. You watched people rewrite the story of your worth. You started to believe them. That maybe you were replaceable. Forgettable. Finished. But here's the truth no one told you. There are things inside of you that needed the darkness to take shape. Some roots only grow underground. Some strength is only born in silence. And sometimes God doesn't rescue you from the dirt, because He's using it to transform you. The version of you that existed before the fall couldn't carry what's coming, so the illusion had to die. The mask, the need for approval, the smaller self that kept shrinking to fit into places your spirit had already outgrown. That's what the burial was for. Not to end you, but to expand you. Not to erase your identity, but to reveal it. You thought you lost everything, but what actually died was who you were never meant to stay. And now, something has shifted. You feel it, don't you? That quiet rumble under the surface. That strange, sacred fire returning to your chest. You're not trying to be who you were. You're learning to become who you really are. You didn't fail. You didn't fall apart. You were planted. And the ones who thought they buried you are about to witness your resurrection. Because you weren't built to stay small. You were buried to rise deeper, wiser, unshakable. They never saw the root. They never saw the process. But they will see the bloom. And when you rise, you won't rise as who they left. You'll rise as who you were always meant to be. They didn't see you. Not really. They saw what they could get from you. What they could use you for. What they could manipulate. What they could take. And when you had nothing left to give, they walked. Like your worth had an expiration date. That kind of wound doesn't bleed on the outside. It settles deeper. Into your confidence. Into your sense of identity. And suddenly, you're not just healing from what they did. You're questioning who you are because of it. That's what people don't understand about being used. It's not just betrayal. It's distortion. You start to see yourself through the lens of their intentions. You internalize their lack of care as a lack of value. You confuse their selfishness with your smallness. And the truth gets buried under all the noise of how they handled you. But listen to me. You are not what they chose to do with you. You are not the version of you that was created by their convenience. Their intentions were theirs. Their decisions were theirs. You don't have to carry the weight of them anymore. You were misused. But that doesn't mean you were made for misuse. That doesn't mean your softness was foolish. That doesn't mean your loyalty was a weakness. That doesn't mean you deserve to be discarded. Their lack of vision for you does not cancel out the truth of who you are. You're not disposable. You're not invisible. You're not foolish for showing up with love in a world that didn't know what to do with it. You have a soul that wanted to believe the best in people. You have a heart that stayed open even when it was bleeding. That's not something to bury in shame. That's something to reclaim in strength. Because healing isn't just about letting go of what happened. It's about releasing who you became because of it. It's about waking up one day and deciding, I'm done letting their brokenness narrate my identity. You didn't deserve it. You didn't attract it. You didn't cause it. And you sure as hell don't have to carry it into who you're becoming. You are not the damage. You are the rebuild. And every piece of you that they mishandled will be restored with truth. Not their truth. Yours. They thought you gave up. Because you stopped explaining. Because you stopped trying to be understood. Because you went quiet. They called it giving in. But they never understood what that silence really was. It was you finally stepping away from noise that never listened. It was you no longer performing pain for people who never cared to see it. You weren't breaking. You were observing. You were conserving every last drop of energy they tried to drain from you. You were learning who was really there and who only showed up when you were useful. See, silence is uncomfortable, but only for those who expect access to your struggle. Only for those who grew used to your openness, your explanations, your need to justify your boundaries. You stopped talking, not because you didn't have words, but because they didn't deserve them. And that was the shift. You went inward, into the ache, the wreckage, the aftermath. And for the first time, you didn't rush to fix, to explain, or to be seen. You just sat with it. You let the pain speak, without interruption. You let the silence become a sanctuary, not a cage. That's what they never saw. That your quiet was never surrender. It was strategy. It was healing. It was sacred. And while they thought you disappeared, you were reappearing to yourself. You started to hear things again. Your own voice, your own truth, your own boundaries. That silence was not weakness. It was you learning the difference between being loud and being clear. It was you understanding that strength isn't always shown in words. Sometimes it's in restraint. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to say nothing and just walk away. Because not every battle is worth your energy. Not every misunderstanding is worth correcting. Not every room deserves your light. What looked like retreat was protection. What felt like loneliness was alignment. You weren't hiding. You were healing. You weren't quiet because you had nothing to say. You were quiet because you finally knew who was worth speaking to. And now, you speak differently. You walk differently. You choose differently. Because silence didn't break you. It built you. And what you're becoming now didn't come from noise. It came from everything you learned when the world went quiet. Let's not dress it up. They did what they did, knowing what it would do to you. And somehow, they walked away like it meant nothing, while you stayed behind, trying to collect the shattered version of yourself they left behind. And even now, even after all this time, something inside you still whispers, make it right. Make them feel what you felt. You wanted justice. You still do. Not because you're cruel, but because what they did was real. And it mattered. And no one, not even you, should have to carry the weight of someone else's destruction without it being seen, acknowledged, answered. But here's what most people won't tell you. Revenge doesn't fix the broken parts. It doesn't put the pieces back where they belong. It just drags you back into the darkness that tried to swallow you in the first place. You think getting even will give you closure. That if they hurt like you hurt, maybe then you'll finally breathe. But you won't. You'll just keep bleeding from the same wound, thinking the pain means you're winning. It doesn't. And I know, it's not fair. You're not asking for something outrageous. You're asking for justice. For someone to say, you didn't deserve this. But what if I told you someone already did? God saw it. Every part of it. The silent breakdowns. The fake smiles. The nights you didn't sleep because the memory wouldn't shut up. He kept score. Not because he needed to punish them, but because he needed to protect you. You're not being ignored, you're being elevated. Because real justice isn't about seeing them fall. It's about watching you rise in spite of what they did. It's about becoming someone stronger, softer, deeper, someone who chose healing over hate. And that's the part they'll never understand. They thought they broke you, but they only woke something up inside you. They thought they ended your story, but all they did was light the fire under your next chapter. You don't need revenge to validate your pain. You don't need karma to fix what they ruined. You don't even need them to understand, because this journey isn't about them anymore. It's about you. About what you become now that you've decided to stop looking back. Now that you've accepted that justice, real justice, isn't loud or vengeful or cruel. It's quiet. It's sacred. And it's already happening even when you don't see it. You don't have to fight for the score to be settled. It already is. And that is a kind of peace they will never know. You've spent so long hiding them, haven't you? Covering up the pain. Pretending it didn't happen. Smiling in rooms where you were silently screaming. Hoping no one would see the cracks, the damage, the places where you were torn open. Because somewhere along the way, someone made you believe your scars were something to be ashamed of. That if you were strong enough, healed enough, good enough, you wouldn't have them at all. But that's a lie. Those scars? They aren't signs of weakness. They're not proof you failed. They are the evidence that you survived. You lived through what tried to destroy you. You stood back up after being broken in ways you never thought you could recover from. You kept breathing through the panic, through the loss, through the betrayal that nearly convinced you there was nothing left. And maybe you didn't come out clean. Maybe you didn't come out whole. But you came out. And that matters more than anyone will ever know. You see, the world will try to make you forget the war you've already fought just to be here. It will hand you mirrors that only reflect your flaws. But you carry stories written in wounds that have closed. You carry truth in the places that hurt. Your scars are sacred because they remind you of who you had to become when there was no one left to hold you together. Because they remind you of every moment you almost gave up, but didn't. Because they mark the battles no one clapped for, the ones you fought in silence. You don't need to keep hiding. Not anymore. Your strength was never in looking untouched. It was in refusing to let the pain turn you bitter. It was in choosing to heal anyway. Let the world see what tried to take you out and failed. Let them see the wounds that didn't win. Because there is nothing shameful about surviving. You've earned the right to stop pretending you were never hurt. You've earned the right to take up space, not in spite of your scars, but because of them. And when you finally stop hiding them, you'll realize the most powerful thing about your story isn't that you were wounded. It's that you lived through what tried to erase you, and you're still here. They didn't just hurt you. They studied you. They knew what would break you, and they used it anyway. Manipulated your kindness. Twisted your truth. And when you started slipping under the weight of it all, they stood back, watching, like it was nothing. But you knew what it was. It was betrayal. It was gaslighting. It was a slow, deliberate unraveling of your mind, your trust, your sense of self. And for a long time, you thought it was all your fault. You questioned everything, not because you were weak, but because they made sure you did. They made sure you couldn't tell the difference between love and control, help and harm, safety and silence. And maybe to this day, you're still trying to untangle what was real from what was designed to ruin you. But listen to me, it wasn't wasted. Not one tear. Not one night. Not one breakdown that made you feel like your world was collapsing from the inside out. God saw all of it. And He didn't just pity you, He preserved you. Because what they meant to harm you, He's going to use it. Not by pretending the pain never happened. Not by wrapping it in neat little answers. But by reclaiming it. By taking the very weapon they used to destroy you and turning it into the foundation you rise from. That shame you carried? He's turning it into clarity. That manipulation? Into wisdom. That betrayal? Into the kind of strength that only comes from crawling through the fire and not letting it harden you. You're not just recovering. You're becoming someone they never saw coming. You see, divine reversal doesn't erase the story. It doesn't rewrite the past. It uses it. It redeems it. It makes sure that the same thing that nearly killed you becomes the very thing that wakes you up to your power. That is not comfort. That's reality. Spiritual reality. And you don't have to prove it to anyone. Because one day, quietly, boldly, they'll see it. They'll see that what they meant to harm you only handed you back to yourself. Wiser, stronger, clearer. And that will be the justice. Not that they fell, but that you rose anyway. You keep saying you're trying to come back. Back to who you used to be. Back to the version of yourself before the heartbreak, before the betrayal, before the silence swallowed your voice. But let me ask you something. Why would you want to go back to someone who didn't know what they know now? You weren't weak. You weren't blind. But you were open. And the world didn't treat that openness kindly. They took it, used it, twisted it into something they could control. And when they were done, they left you with pieces you didn't even recognize as yours. So of course you want to go back. Back feels familiar. Back feels safe. But healing doesn't take you back. It takes you through. And when you come out on the other side, you don't return to what was. You arrive into what you were always meant to become. You're not reclaiming the old you. That version didn't have the clarity you have now. Didn't have the fire in your belly. Didn't carry the kind of authority that only comes from walking through hell and learning how to speak from it instead of being swallowed by it. You're not rebuilding a ruined home. You're stepping into a new space, with new boundaries, new peace, new strength. This isn't resurrection of the old. It's the birth of someone unrecognizable, even to yourself. Someone who knows better. Someone who sees it faster. Someone who walks differently, talks differently, doesn't shrink in rooms that once made them small. You've been mistreated, manipulated, misunderstood. But none of that defines you, refined you. You're not the same. And that's the point. You don't owe the world the version of yourself they were comfortable with. You don't have to explain why your heart doesn't open as easily, why your voice is steadier, why your silence is no longer permission, it's power. Because you're not returning to your old name. You're being given a new one. A name carved by survival, written in wisdom, sealed with truth. And the ones who tried to erase you? They won't even recognize who you are now. Not because you're hiding, but because you've risen. This is not your comeback. This is your becoming. You weren't too much. You were too real for people who were comfortable living in pretense. Too honest for those who didn't know what to do with truth. Too deep for those who only knew how to swim in shallow waters. And they didn't know how to handle that. So they misused you. They tried to reshape you, shrink you, mute you. Not because you were wrong, but because your presence made them feel what they weren't ready to face in themselves. They couldn't match your depth, so they made you feel like it was a burden. They couldn't carry your heart, so they called it dramatic, sensitive, too intense. And slowly you started believing them. Started questioning the way you love, the way you speak, the way you show up. You started editing yourself, softening your spirit, apologizing for your existence just to make them more comfortable. But here's what you need to understand. They didn't reject you because you lacked something. They rejected you because you carried something they didn't have the capacity to receive. It wasn't your fault that they couldn't hold space for your honesty, your empathy, your intuition. It wasn't your job to make your light easier for them to stare at. They tried to dim it, not because you were wrong for shining, but because they were never meant to stand in that kind of light. And I get it. You just wanted to be seen, to be known, to be loved without being questioned or doubted or dissected. But the people who made you feel small were never qualified to measure your worth in the first place. You were always too vast to be understood by people still running from themselves. So if they couldn't value you, that's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of their capacity. And when you realize that, something shifts. You stop begging to be seen by eyes not built to recognize you. You stop trying to translate your soul for people who only speak in ego. You stop apologizing for being more, when more is exactly what you were born to be. They didn't misuse you because you were lacking. They misused you because they misunderstood your value. And that misunderstanding? That's their loss, not your definition. You keep thinking if you forgive them, they win. That if you let go, it means what they did didn't matter. That somehow, your silence makes you complicit in their harm. But that's not what forgiveness is. That's not what this is about. Because you remember everything. The way they twisted the truth to protect their own image. The way they smiled while causing damage you're still trying to recover from. You remember how long it took you to even name what was done to you, let alone begin to heal from it. And yet here you are, still carrying them. Not because you want to, but because the pain? It never really let go. It became a shadow, quiet but always there. Tied to your anger. Tied to your bitterness. Tied to that deep ache in your chest that never seems to leave. And maybe you thought holding on to it was the only thing that gave you power. But let me ask you, has it brought you peace? Has clinging to what they did ever made you feel free? See, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's choosing every day to take the knife out of your own hand and stop stabbing yourself with what they did. It's not excusing them. It's not forgetting. It's not pretending you're okay when you're not. It's looking at the wound and saying, yes, you did this. Yes, it broke me. But you don't get to live in me anymore. Forgiveness is the weapon that cuts you loose. It breaks the cycle. It ends the echo. It refuses to let your identity be shaped by someone else's choices. And no, they may never apologize. They may never acknowledge it. But forgiveness doesn't require their participation. It only requires your decision to stop letting them control a single second more of your future. You don't do it because they deserve peace. You do it because you do. Because healing costs energy. And when all of yours is tied up in hating them, there's nothing left to love yourself back to life. So let them go. Not because it's easy. Not because it's fair. But because dragging them through your soul every day has already cost you enough. Forgiveness isn't surrender. It's how you take your power back. There was a time you didn't think you'd make it out. Not because you were weak, but because what you went through cut deep. The kind of pain that doesn't show on your face but lingers in your bones. You didn't just cry, you broke. Quietly. In the places no one could see. You were left wondering why. Why this? Why did the healing take so long and the hurt so little time to wreck everything? And maybe you thought it was just survival. Just endurance. Just barely getting through another season of silence, of waiting, of unanswered prayers. But it wasn't pointless. Because what you didn't know then was that the fire that scorched your soul wasn't sent to destroy you. It was sent to draw something out of you that couldn't be born any other way. The affliction didn't just wound you, it called you. And not into bitterness, but into purpose. Because your anointing, your depth, your discernment, your authority didn't come from a peaceful life. It came from pain. From walking through what should have taken you out and coming back with a voice that carries weight. You were forged in the dark. Where no one clapped for you. Where no one saw how close you were to giving up. But God saw, and instead of pulling you out, He let it press you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. That's the shift no one talks about. When your wounds stop being a mark of what you've lost, and start becoming evidence of what you carry now. Wisdom. Compassion. Fire. You didn't just survive. You were made ready. Ready to speak with clarity because you know what confusion feels like. Ready to lead with softness because you know how pain hardens people. Ready to see the unseen, hold the hurting, call out the lies, because you lived them. This isn't just recovery. It's revelation. You're not just someone who lived through affliction. You're someone who was anointed by it. So don't resent the fire. It didn't ruin you. It revealed you. And what came out of that fire cannot be undone. They used you. Not accidentally. Not unknowingly. They saw what you had to give. Your time, your trust, your tenderness, and they took it like it cost them nothing. Left you drained. Confused. Questioning whether what you gave was ever worth it. And maybe for a while, you started to believe it wasn't. That all of it, the giving, the effort, the love, had been poured into something empty. And what you were left with was silence. Abandonment. The crushing weight of being discarded, like you were something less now. Something used. But let me tell you what no one told you when you were standing in the ruins. God doesn't waste what's been used. He reclaims it. He restores it. He makes it sacred. Every moment you thought was meaningless, every tear you cried alone, Every ounce of yourself you poured into people who couldn't hold it, none of it was wasted. Because what they threw away, God is still holding. He's still writing it into your story, not as shame, not as weakness, but as evidence. Evidence that your heart was open, even in a world that didn't know how to honor it. Evidence that your spirit stayed soft, even when life tried to harden you. Evidence that you kept showing up, kept loving, kept hoping, even when it cost you everything. And that matters. That counts. Because He doesn't just use the beautiful parts of your life. He uses all of it, especially the broken pieces, the messy chapters, the ones you wish you could erase. That betrayal? That loss? That season where you felt invisible? He's not overlooking it. He's redeeming it, transforming what felt like damage into design, what looked like failure into formation. You're not disposable. You're not damaged goods. You are chosen. Even now. Especially now. And maybe they saw you as nothing more than something to use up and leave behind, but He never did. He saw treasure where others saw trash. He saw a vessel not because it was flawless, but because it was willing. And that's what makes you powerful. You were used, and still, you are useful. Still, you are worthy. Still, you are being built into something they'll never recognize. So don't believe the lie that says it was all for nothing. Because even this, especially this, will become part of what saves you. Nothing is wasted. Not the pain. Not the story. Not even you.